Hello, welcome back to Boolean LIVENODING. In this episode, I'll be sharing with you this modular eye creations. This is actually version 2 of the eyeballs. So in this example, I actually started with this modular donuts. So the modular donut is looking something like this. Let me quickly try to select. So I started with a cylinder and I just make it smooth, and with the cylinder I make solidify and with some thickness and then subdivision, so it's become like a donut. The eyeball itself, this modular eye, is made up something like this. So let's take a look very quickly. My thinking is I started with a UV sphere basically, and then I transform it and make a Boolean cut to make the whole of the eyeballs. And the eyelid is simply just a sphere that's being Booleans and also have a little bit of thickness. And I also make sure each one of them can be rotated as an eyelid. So this one, so I can make it blink, etc. So this one, you might probably a little bit heavy. I have another example, maybe easier to explain. Okay, similar example. So let's actually take a look at the big part first. So this is a cube, and I subdivided it 3 times. I can subdivide it less. Okay, so the cube, it's been cut by all this sphere. First of all, I have hidden sphere cutter, and I have this modular eye where I place on the cutter. Okay, so I think this is an interesting example. So the cube, of course, can be scaled, and I can subdivide it. I can replace this with any kind of objects. So I have this attribute randomize of this is for the eyeballs, and for the sphere cutter that will cut the cube and then place the eyeball. So the eyeball placement is aligned. It's also aligned on the surface. So if I try to use different surface like cylinder, hopefully this works. So the cylinder, plug this in. Okay, it's looking pretty weird, but it's working. Eyeball pizza or something. However, the one that's interesting is really the modular eyeballs. So I should perhaps explain that a little bit more. So this is another example with to make this Pepe the Frog. Pepe the Frog is I have also line art here, so I can rotate the character. You can see the line art. You can actually see how the part is being created. I think this is a good example of how you want to use the eyeballs, because each eyeball is actually modular, right? I can reduce the resolutions. I can change the radius. Oh, actually this one. Yeah, this is the scale of the radius, but the pupil, I can also scale it smaller. I can make the eyelid open and close. I can make the eyeballs moving ups and down. So there's a bit of control there. It's not an actual rig, however, it's still kind of nice to be able to do this. And if I want to, I can make duplicates and make smaller eyes. place it in the center. With this setup, I didn't make a cutout for the eyes into this head. But anyway, yeah, the whole thing is modular, of course, including the mouth here. The mouth, if I take a look, view, frame all. So it's an empty geometry object. I just join it with a circle that's been transformed and it's been scaled. So I can control this character a little bit. Oops. Oh yeah. Yeah. This actually have a lot of modifiers. From a circle, just a circle, right? I deform it. So there's a bit of control. I deform it, and to make this like a solid object, I actually use a screw modifier and solidify. This is actually quite interesting. If with a screw modifier you turn off the angle to 0, screw becoming like a kind of to add a thickness or extrusion, and then there's also solidify. Just a bit of technique there, and then subdivisions, of course. But let's get back to the eyeballs and let's see how I add the control. And at this point, looking at this seems like a mess. But let's try to understand the setup. It's a good idea to actually make notes of what's going on. But we always start with a group input, and there's always like a group output and a lot of join. If we try to trace what's going on, there's definitely the eyeball part that's separate from the eyelid, so I can always scale the eyes if I want to. It's actually kind of neat to be able to do this. Okay, so that's for the whole eyeballs with a cutout with a little pupil. The eyelid, so these two makes the eyelid. That's definitely the same objects. I can control options, right click, drag. You can see that's makes the eyelid, the upper and lower eyelid that I should be able to rotate and transform. So based on my eyeball creations experience, in the end, so you create the geometry, but in the end you always have like this special transform. So this one is the little sphere that makes a cut that's been placed there on the eyeball. And this is just the scale control. But the eyes itself, you can already guess. It's just based on the UV sphere. I started with just a UV sphere, which is this guy over here. So I can control the segment, ring, and radius from here. I can make it like low resolutions, control the radius. So this guy is really important. I should mark it. And then whenever this goes into a transform, I can control it, I can scale it, etc. just so I can Boolean it later with another transform. So it's really important. Transform before Boolean. I make a difference, and this one just to assign a material, and this one just to make it smooth. So that's not very important. This makes the eyeball. The eyelid is actually more interesting. The eyelid is of course the UV sphere itself. It's been transformed. there's this Boolean with a cube that has been scaled. So this is actually more interesting, where I just make sure, like, let me try to draw it. If I get rid of the line art, it's gonna be faster. This is without the line art. If I try to draw how I created this, of course it's just a cylinder. It's a UV sphere, right? UV sphere, I made a cut, that's the eyeballs. If a UV sphere, and I have a cube that's been cut in half. This one is become the Boolean. This cube should always be like a bounding box of the sphere above it. So it's always half. It's always make a cut, and then I make another cut, Boolean cuts, and I just get rid of this part. So we have the eyelid. Yeah, like I said, it's a good idea to actually make like a group. This is a messy job. So this one, of course, controlling the Boolean cut. As you can see, it's half of the sphere. And then I have controller for the eyelid, upper lid, upper and lower. This one is it's not the best controller, but it works in this case. The controller is actually, I think this is working in the kind of, it's using radian or degrees. It's probably using degrees. The cool thing about the modular eyeball is that each one of them is a separate entity. I mean, you can always override it through the modifier parameter. I really like this, actually, this ability to be able to select. And yeah, so each modular eyeball, by the way, also have different materials. The green part, the lid, the pupil, and the eyeball color. So I can make changes to the color very easily. Yeah. So what do you think? Yeah, I think, anyway, the idea is now we have modular eyeball. It's very easy just to make duplicates, etc. Whenever, maybe I just gonna show you. This is the process. This is the cube, right? Go to edit mode, delete everything. You can create like a line. Join geometry. Now we have lines. We want to this eyeball, so we simply select the line, instance. This eyeball geometry is one of these. So just drag it. Now we have this line that makes the eyeball. Goes into the z-axis, or you can draw it in x-axis. Now, if it's an instance at the moment, we cannot really control the eyeballs itself, but we can always scale it differently. So this should work. You can use vector, scale it differently like that. You can always replace the line with anything else plain. You can see this is like very handy. Control options, right mouse button drag to cut that. and transform, always super handy. All right, so there's a bunch of eyeballs there for you to play with. Yeah, hopefully you find this interesting. Yeah, this eyeball is still an instance object, right? You can move it up and down. You can see the instance is changing, right? So you can have a collections of different eyeballs and just instance it like crazy. The matrix of eyeballs. All right, so hopefully you find this interesting. I will give the modular eyes. I will upload the blend as an example. Maybe I will not upload with the Pepe. Maybe I should. We will see. All right. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.